Okay, welcome to testing of materials. Unit number 1, Introduction to Materials Testing. So first we need to know about what is meant by material. Okay. So material is defined as a substance. It may be solid that is intended to be used for certain applications. There are infinite number of materials around us. They can be found in anything from buildings to okay. So from buildings to spacecraft, many materials are used. It is classified into ceramics, polymers, etc. Okay. So next we are going to see what is meant by metals. So metals are opaque, lustrous elements that are good conductors of heat and electricity. Most metals are malleable and ductile and are in greater density than other elemental substances. Okay. So next one, it is ceramic. So ceramic, we all know what is meant by ceramic. Ceramic is an inorganic non-metallic solid made up of either metal or non-metal components that have been shaped and then hardened by heating to high temperature. So it is components between metallic and non-metallic elements. They are the most frequently oxides and carbides. Then the material is classified into advanced materials. Advanced materials in the sense it is an high technology material. Applications are sometimes termed as materials. Examples are electronic equipments like camcorders, CDs and DVDs, players, etc. And then materials which are used in computers, fiber optic systems, space aircraft, and military rocketry systems. And the next, we are going to see what is by material testing. Okay. So before the erection of the material or the manufacturing of any product, we have to test the material. So material testings are established technique which is used to ascertain both the physical and mechanical properties of raw materials and components. It also measures the characteristics and behaviors of substances such as metals, ceramics, plastics under various conditions. Testing of material is classified for following purposes: for developing of certain kind of objects, certain standard methods and procedures are used for testing the material. So we can't able to simply test the material by using by our knowledge. So we have to follow some certain rules and regulations for testing the material. Okay. So here the material testing is mainly classified into two types. The one, it is we call it as destructive testing, and the second one we call it as non-destructive testing. Okay. So destructive testing, uh, we break the material into two pieces and we'll be testing the material. So that those testings we call it as destructive testing. Okay. So once the destructive testing is completed on that particular material, so we can't reuse that material. Okay. So those materials we call it as destructive testing materials. And non-destructive testing, so that is the testing will be doing without destructing the material, like we won't be breaking the material. So the non-destructive testing is classified into two types. One is static testing and the second one is impact testing. So the static testing is the testing where the load is applied gradually in static testing differential material, and we'll be testing the material. So those so this kind of material, this kind of testing we call it as static testing. And the other types of testings are tension test, compression test, shear test and pre-test. And the second one, it is we call it as dynamic testing, or the other name for dynamic testing is impact testing. And the given specimen is subjected to shock loads. So those kind of testing we call it as impact testing or dynamic testing. Okay, so dynamic testing is again classified into mainly three types: Sharpe test, ISO test and dropwall test. So this is the pictorial representation of non-destructive testing. Here we will be placing the material which we want to test, and this is the graph. It shows the uh, shows the material's defectiveness, whether it is defective or non-defective. And here in this machine, we can able to check the graph of the testing machines. Okay, so non-destructive testing consists of variety of non-invasive inspection techniques used to evaluate material properties, components, or either process units. So these techniques can be utilized to detect characteristics or measure the presence of damage mechanisms like corrosion or cracks. So material has a corrosion or cracks. So those kind of materials can be tested by using non-destructive testing. So many types of non-destructive techniques are capable of locating defects and determining the features of the defects such as size, shape and orientation. The purpose of NDT is to inspect a component in a safe and reliable and cost-effective manner. So for this purpose, we will be using this non-destructive testing. Okay, so the non-destructive testing is mainly classified into liquid penetration, radiation testing, sound, that is we'll be using the ultrasound to detect the flash, then magnetism, we'll be passing electromagnetic fields through the material and we'll be testing the material, and the last one, it is the infrared testing. So these kinds of testing we'll be doing it in the non-destructive techniques. And the classification of non-destructive testing like infrared testing, leakage testing, liquid penetrant testing, magnetic particle testing, film radiography, ultrasonic testing, visual inspection, and advanced NDT techniques. Okay. The advantages of NDT test is so their test is portable. You can do this test anywhere, and the result is quick and reliable. Uh, so this test is simple and it does not require any techniques to test the test. And the disadvantages of NDT test is like we need skilled persons for conducting this kind of tests. And before conducting the test, we have to clean the specimen. So these are the disadvantages. Lack of depth sizing, and so these are the some of the disadvantages of NDT test. Okay, and the next one is, it is the purpose of testing. Why we have to conduct the testing? Okay, so here to maintain the quality, we have to do the testing. So after doing the testing, we can able to predict whether the material has a high quality or low. So from this we can able to identify the quality of the material, and also to avoid mistakes in the first stage of manufacturing process. And third one, it is the if you want to get the compliance certificate, then you have to do the testing. And the next one, for production purposes, we'll be using many kind of materials. We'll be testing those materials and be using them. And the next one, it is a selection of material. So in selection of material, we will be selecting which material will be suitable for our manufacturing process. For that purpose, we have some rules and regulations for selecting the material. The first one, identify the desired requirements. So first we have to identify what are the requirements we need to know, and then based on that requirements we'll be selecting the material. So the material should be, it should have simplicity and practicability. It should be reliable. The size, shape and mass requirements should be considered. So these are the things we have to consider for selecting a material. And second step, it is we have to identify the selection criteria. And third step, the material properties. And step number 4, we have to evaluate the candidate materials. And step number 5, we have to select the materials to fabricate a component. And the last step, we have to analyze the failure, whether the material has any failure or not. We have to check whether the material has any failures. So these are the things we have to keep it in our mind while selecting the material. And the factors which affects the selection of materials will be performance. Okay, so performance is the main thing which affects the selection of materials. So and the main thing, it is the mechanical properties we have to consider for selecting the material. Then wear of materials, And finally we'll be giving all this the product to the testing organization for testing. Okay, so some of the committees will be testing the materials, like international organization for standardization. They will be checking the material quality. Then ASTM International, Indian Standards BAS. So these are the some of the testing organizations. They will be testing the quality of the material we have manufactured. So that's all about material testing. Thank you.